Should you sell high or low ticket products for your store? Most people's first challenge when creating an e-com store is deciding what products they want to sell. And one of the main points of that conversation is going to be should it be high or low ticket. So I want to go over what we've seen work the best with our clients and also my own personal stores. And that way you can see from firsthand experience what factors would we look at when it comes to this main conversation. So the things that matter most are going to be one, cost of traffic, two, market size, and three, the margin of the product. Now, these three things aren't necessarily, you wouldn't look at them spread across all your different ideas. It's more so boiling down with the specific idea you have for a type of product, whether it's low or high ticket. Would the cost and the market size of that traffic even be applicable? So, for example, if you have a low ticket type product and the cost of traffic is super high and you need a certain cost per acquisition, let's say you need a cost per acquisition of $20 to have a store with an average order value of about $50 be profitable. That means that you, in most cases, are going to need really, really, really cheap traffic. And when I say cheap traffic, we're talking about cost per click, especially on the Google side. So, and then the same point is like on a higher ticket product, you have a lot more room there. So if there's a large market size and then there's cheap enough traffic to support your product idea, that's what's going to make it viable. This isn't so much on like small versus large. This is just more so about from the ideas that you have on both, what would actually support launching that type of product. Next is going to be the margin of the product. Now, this is what you'll look at next to those two different areas that I just mentioned. So if you have a high ticket product with very high profit margin, and there's a lot of space for not necessarily error, but for the cost of acquisition or other areas of fulfillment, that's going to make it easier for a more expensive traffic source to make it viable. Whereas if you have a small product that has really small margin and you need a smaller cost per acquisition, like I said, you can only afford a certain type of traffic for that type of product. So three things that you really want to think on when you're looking at the viability of product ideas. When it comes to the pros and cons of each of these, the pros and cons on low ticket, what we see is one, you have lower risk of inventory. So if you're trying to create inventory for products for a store, you don't need to put up a ton of money for higher volumes because they just simply cost less. So that's going to be definitely one of the benefits. Equally on the actual advertising side, you need less ad spend for testing. So if you have a cost per acquisition goal of $10 versus 100, you're going to get to that data in most cases a lot quicker, and you're going to spend a lot less to find whether it works or not. So uh, if you're not necessarily running low on money, but you're trying to find the most affordable way to start a store, the low ticket definitely is going to categorize to that. Now, the problem with it though is you have easier competition, right? So if there's lower ticket sizes on the product, there's going to be an easier way for people to break into that product for the same reasons you would. So if people are, easier because it's lower risk or it has low inventory cost or it has lower ad spend needed for testing, other people are going to see that too. And it's going to make it easier for people to jump into that niche and start competing with you. So there's definitely going to be more competition. And then the last thing is going to be higher volume in most cases means more ops or at least more complications on the ops, because when you're moving more product and you're having a higher volume of product, more things can go wrong, right? Now, that's not to say you could have a high ticket product that is more complicated in its build and there might be quality control issues, something like that. But we're not talking about specific use cases here. We're talking about the overall idea of each. So higher volume usually means more ops, which means more complications. Next is going to be on the high ticket side. So the pros and cons here is going to be one big pro is more profit per sale. If you're selling an item for $800 and it costed $100 to produce that item and maybe $50 for fill with shipping and getting it out from your manufacturer warehouse, you're going to have significant more profit on that sale, especially for the cost per acquisition side, which means you have more of a threshold to break even and you're risking less in the sense that if you have a product that's actually going to sell, you don't have to worry too much about a higher cost per acquisition because you have more space in the profit. So it definitely allows things to be a little safer in that sense. You're just playing a bigger game, right? Next is going to be lower volume, less things that can go wrong. Like I said, there's exceptions here. If you have a product that's expensive and it's complicated, that's what makes it expensive. You could have more issues with the actual product itself. But as far as moving the volume, it's not going to pose a lot more issues. If you have a really heavy item, potentially that could be an issue as far as shipping it out and shipping costs. But if it's just expensive and higher ticket, you're not moving as much of it as a volume, so it's not as big of a deal in that sense. And then one thing is you need more USPs. This is unique selling points. You're going to have to give people more reasons to spend the money with you, right? So it's a little bit harder to sell higher ticket There are cases where people with higher intent will make a purchase pretty easily, but in most cases, the more someone's going to spend, the more you have to compel them to spend that amount. So that's something to factor in. And then the last thing is less ecom kids. What I'm talking about here is all the people who get out of high school, all these young guys that see all this fun stuff on social media, and they're trying to get into ecom. They're not going to have a bunch of money to do something high ticket and have the ability to put up money for higher cost inventory and do all these different ops that are needed. So you don't have to deal with all the annoying stores that'll pop up trying to copy you, which is really big perk for most. And as far as like our winners and my winners, one, I know it's a little bit ambiguous, but your situation matters. Like I said, if you have maybe not a lot of starting funds, lower ticker is probably going to be more approachable for you. If you have more starting funds and you want to really get into a niche, so there's going to be less competition, higher ticket will probably be better. So I would say your situation matters a lot here. In my world, with what we've already accomplished, I'd most likely cater to higher ticket, or at least getting something that's not super cheap. That's like $10 to $30 per product being sold. So I would always cater towards higher ticket because it gives you more of a fluff in the actual marketing side, and you have more room for error. Whereas lower ticket, you really don't, but there are the perks of it being lower cost. So the other things what we see have the most success. There's two sides to this as well. We've seen low ticket products that are on a like a hype wave, whatever it is, scale like crazy, absolute crazy. But then their market gets saturated because people see it and then they pop up stores that are identical to theirs. So that will have more, I would say on the lower ticket side, you're gonna have more ups and downs, right? You could have a really great success, but it's not going to be as long term in more cases because people will come to the market and compete with you. And then the longest standing clients that we have that are constantly killing it, really high revenue, growing, don't have all the competition coming in, are definitely a higher ticket. When I say higher ticket, they're selling products that cost a couple $100, at least. So I would say as far as longevity, higher ticket's the winner there. But if you're trying to break into a niche quick, or you see a store's killing it, you want to compete with them, lower ticket's going to be the move. So that's it for this one. If you have any questions or any comments on this topic, feel free to weigh in the comment section, and I'll weigh in too.